Now this might come as a surprise to you, but I'm a pretty big fan of Final Fantasy XIV. I'd assume that the hundreds of videos I've made talking about the game over nearly 3 years of content creation would give that away a little bit, but if you didn't know, well now you do. Of course, there are some people who think that if you criticize something, then you aren't a true fan, which is a pretty stupid thing to say, since for you to even have a valid critique, you have to have actual knowledge about the thing you're talking about, and it takes time to get that knowledge. I can't really see people taking time to learn about something that they didn't like just so they can complain about it. I mean, we live in a weird world, so it's possible, but it's not really the norm. I hear this label getting thrown at everyone from comic book fans to Star Wars fans, all three of them that are left after what Disney's done to it. But that's not a fair label to put on people who have issues with the product. The reason that people have certain issues with things that happen in games and comic books and movies is because they're invested in them. They're fans of them, and fans criticize the things that they love. The same with people. The person who cares about you the most will point out your flaws, not because they hate you, but because they want you to be better. That same thing goes for the people who voice their complaints about their entertainment. I love Final Fantasy XIV. It's got a rich, detailed world, interesting characters, an incredible story, and content that fits the playstyle of a lot of different people. It's a great game for both the casual and hardcore players, but it's not without its flaws. And one really big one that gets on my nerves every time I think about it, is the terrible way that they've covered the passage of time in their world. For those of you who don't know, a while back it was stated that all of the events in Final Fantasy XIV from A Realm Reborn to Stormblood had happened in a little over a year. And while time passed a lot for the Scions who were on the first, due to time moving a little bit differently for them on that world than on the main one, when you went there, time had pretty much synced up with the source, and when you came back to Tataru, she said that you were back way faster than she had expected. That means that Shadowbringers didn't really take all that much time either. So an accurate estimate according to the information that we have now is the entirety of Final Fantasy XIV from the beginning to where we are at this current moment was no more than a year and a half. Now that's one of the most ridiculous things I've seen in a story, and we've seen some foolishness in our entertainment over the years. Who here remembers Goku and Frieza's 5-minute fight on Namek that lasted like 20 episodes? As ridiculous as that was, even that made more sense than the stagnant time in Final Fantasy XIV if you just account for the time it takes to travel between the places. The fact that the Warrior of Light has the ability to teleport to any Aetheryte from anywhere in the game, and they can take flights from city-state to city-state without actually having to watch how much time passes, that doesn't change the fact that there is a bit of travel time between these locations. Nor does it change the fact that most people can't just decide to teleport from one place to another, as you've seen with Ishtola and her constant screw-ups when it comes to doing this. Ul'dah, Gridania, and Limsa Lominsa aren't exactly a few minutes apart, and when you factor in travel to Doma, Thavnir, and such, there's just a little bit of a commute. But this story would have you believe that the Warrior of Light came to Eorzea, joined the Scions, traveled around the world fighting primals, beat the Ultima weapon, helped Alphinaud form a private military, got betrayed by that military and fled to Ishgard, fought in and helped win the Dragon Song War, reunited with the Scions, had Shinryu summoned, activated Omega, went to Alamigo and got wrecked by Xenos, went to Doma and freed it, came back and freed Alamigo, got sucked to the first, restored that world, got the Scions back home, and united the world to stop the final days, all in a little over a year. The amount of time that it would take to even gather those people together to even start discussing things like war, trade routes, and alliances would definitely exceed a year. I get the fact that this is a fantasy world with dragons and magic, but for all of this to take place in that short of a time is just dumb. And it won't get better anytime soon because if time passes, the twins will eventually have to grow up. And since Square Enix doesn't want to age them up, we may end up in a Maggie from The Simpsons situation where she's still a baby after 30 years. The problem is, The Simpsons is a comedy show without any overarching plot. It gets a little weird when this happens in a world where nations change, yet children still don't grow up. Now, there are some other things about the game that kind of irk me sometimes, but none of them really reach the level of the whole time issue since I'm more focused on the story itself, and that's just one thing that pops out at me every time I'm diving into any type of lore in the game. Anyway, we're done for today. If you enjoyed my little rant, hit the like button, subscribe, ding that notification bell, donate if you can, and I'll see you guys in the next one.